Now, let's go to the Mail on Sunday, because if I don't go there, Declan Lynch is going to bring us there. It's already open. He wants to talk of nothing else. This, in fairness, is pretty interesting. So, Mail on Sunday, page 65, Joe Bernstein. We have all been under the fairly solid assumption that Ole at the wheel is very much an Alex Ferguson endorsed idea. And yet Joe Bernstein has spoken to various people very close to Alex Ferguson, and it's, well, one of many things we have wrong. Ferguson thinks it should have been Pochettino all the way, and he feels marginalised quite badly, it seems, by Man United. So for people who haven't read this, Declan, maybe sum up some of the key things.
Well, it's a great piece of British journalism, you know, by Joe Bernstein. Like Gavin and I were looking at it and just thinking, that is just great. It's a great piece, right? Because it tells you something which is more or less the opposite of what almost everyone had assumed, right? And it presents this picture of Alex Ferguson increasingly, unhappy at this, feeling marginalised, feeling that nobody talks to him at United. There's a great line, so a sense of hurt that the club he helped to establish no longer calls on his counsel. I mean, I hear Marlon Brando saying that, you know, and you no longer come to me for advice. You know, it's wonderful. Like he mentions like the power brokers Woodward, Richard Arnold, and Matt Judge never pick up the phone. Right? Now, what he thinks of these guys, I don't know, but I think there's a quote. He says, I think they should shift the people who are in charge of the club back to the business of the club, back down to London. So his essential view of the people running Manchester United is that they should go back to London, right? Which is excellent. He gives voice to more or less everything that people think about United, oddly enough, which is that, you know, the whole thing has run aground. The club has become dysfunctional. Except we all thought that they had looked to him for guidance, and in fact, apparently not. He really wanted Pochettino.
It's surprising,
and apparently loves Pochettino, and said Manchester United should always go for the best out there. And the best available, in this case, Tottenham's Mauricio Pochettino. He's on about the way they sign players, that he's privately sceptical. It's great, isn't it? He's privately sceptical about the club's worldwide scouting network, believing too many cooks spoil the broth, and that it ends up with compromise buys like £52 million Fred from Shakhtar Donetsk. It always comes back to Fred.
Yeah,
really,
Fred's a big stick to beat them with. Not just Jemba.
The deep misfortune of him being called Fred can't be overestimated. You know?
Because I was just saying to you guys before we came on air that the picture after the PSG game away, where there was Solskjaer and Ferguson and Eric Cantona hands around each other, it just kind of copper-fastened this general sense that Ferguson approved of this, that this was like almost a DNA heritage move, and this was the linking of the past and the future, and, you know, they were probably meeting him for advice, and he's around the training ground all the time, and, you know, Ferguson says, Bernstein says, I don't know if Ferguson's contributed to this piece, while holding nothing against Solskjaer, someone Ferguson has met a couple of times for coffee near his home, the truth is the pair are not as close as the image. Indeed, Ferguson increasingly felt isolated and out of touch with what has happened at United since he left. And it doesn't seem like they're meeting really that often in terms of, well, what do you think I should do at the weekend, Sir Alex? And they also just say, look, it's a tough time for Alex Ferguson, the brain hemorrhage and the surgery. There have been consequences to his life. He's less independent, he's not able to drive, and so on. So it does cut a pretty sad story, you know, Ferguson kind of still turning up to Old Trafford, but feeling like, I'm pretty much on the sidelines.
It also evokes this, I mean, like their absolute determination to do everything that Liverpool did wrong. Like he's like this Shankly-like figure, you know, wondering why don't they involve me anymore. He says that he was criticised for like leaving a poor team when he left that, but he says no, that he disagrees completely. He said Moyes and Woodward ripped up the Fergie rulebook from day one. Phelan, who had worked alongside Ferguson, was sent away. Wilfried Zaha was ignored by Moyes, who picked Adnan Januzaj as the better prospect, a judgment not borne out by history, with Zaha's current transfer valuation 4 times what Fergie paid for him. So
it's just like Zaha was a great Fergie signing, it turns out.
But this is some absolutely classic Ferguson justification in here. Because what's missing from that, what Declan just read out there, who appointed David Moyes? Ferguson did. He's obviously an incredible football manager, but he's one of the great egotists of British public life in the 20th century. A guy who dedicated part of his farewell autobiography to explaining why they didn't sign Jordan Henderson. And there was the other story that I was thinking about this outside, that when they were re-signing Wayne Rooney, it actually says, he should have gone to Chelsea. He ended up getting that new contract. And
Ferguson wanted Rooney gone.
Yeah, but the Glazers texted him, okay, we've renegotiated this massive contract. And as it would have worked out, he would have been making more than Ferguson. And Ferguson texted back, no one should be paid more at this club than I did. So this is like classic justification. And Ferguson, I do think that the main thing that Moyes had in his favour for that job was that he was Scottish. And he was this, another continuation of the Ferguson myth. I have to say that it was his empire, and he just wanted to, keep on making it in his image. And that leaves out the fact that he appointed David Moyes is kind of ludicrous. Also, there's to go back on what we were talking about, like Shankly. Repeating what happened at Liverpool, and Shankly would turn up at the training ground and be told, "You don't work here anymore. Please go home." And he had to go watch Everton. And this is a really tragic final sentence. But after that, so there's a charity game between Man United and Bayern Legends this afternoon. So this is what this piece is kind of hooked around. But after that, because Ferguson's in the dugout, after that it will be back home to Wilmslow, catching up with the latest club news on MUTV and waiting for the phone to ring.
I think that's Joe Bernstein taking a bit of artistic license, to be fair. I don't think that's quite literally what will happen.
Yeah, F. Scott Fitzgerald, artistic license there. But history may record that one of their great misfortunes, that game against PSG, right, they took completely the wrong meaning out of that, because they really lost that tie, right? In almost every game of football played before that evening,
the expected goals,
they wouldn't have got that penalty near the end, right? It was a crazy decision, right? It was one of those things where my one sort of criticism of the VAR, this thing of slowing things down for handballs, life doesn't happen actually in slow motion. And yes, there was some minuscule sort of contact, that technically could be a penalty, but it would never ever have been given as a penalty. No one even on the pitch saw it, So they interpreted from that a glorious victory. They should have interpreted, in fact, we lost that one, right? But based on that, so that presumption, simply because they had been they were now in the next round of the competition for some bizarre reason, they thought that they'd won the match.
Frankly, I thought they were going to win the competition at that stage. That evening, I did think so. And the Spurs away win, the split strikers first half worked very well, but the lingering memory as time goes on is David De Gea making about 14 million saves in the second half.
But like that PSG, that famous game, you remember he played Eric Bailly at right back and had to take him off. It was a disaster.
Well, sorry, Bailly limped off.
Yeah,
and let the record show.
It was one of those. It was kind of an affected limp to get out of there with a bit of dignity intact. But now that you have Ferguson out here, sorry, but he's not quoted directly.
No, he certainly isn't.
It's well sourced. He might be wrong, but it's pretty well sourced that Pochettino would actually have been better. And, Pochettino has been talking about, I'll have to leave Spurs if we win the European Cup next Saturday. Is Solskjaer's position not even before pre-season, not fatally undermined?
John Giles was on actually a couple of weeks ago, and he said, as brutal as it will be, and you will feel a bit sorry for Solskjaer, Manchester United should still be trying to hire Pochettino this summer. The 40-50 million that you'll have to pay Solskjaer to fire him will be, small beans in comparison.
This is absolutely true. It's one of the terrible kind of habits of football, that when they make a mistake, they feel that they have to go through it to the end, to some sort of logical conclusion, so that they can't just say, look, we just got it wrong, right? We made a terrible mistake here, but we're not going to sort of go through another 6 months of failure just to sort of see if it turns at all. Do you know what I mean? They don't seem to be able to do that. Those particularly big clubs,
there's a certain sense of your own ego. You hired the guy. Did I get this wrong?
But is it not a more executive thing to do, to actually stand above that and to say, look, I'm big enough to say I got it wrong? Could they not parlay it like that?
Look, I'm sure in the NBA they do deal with that.
I think that Solskjaer might start parking in Ferguson's car park spot after he reads this.
Yeah, it's poor old Alex Ferguson. Joe Bernstein, page 65, Mail on Sunday.